So, hello guys. This is going to be another little, hopefully quick one. Talk of in the dirt for you guys, as I've so aptly named this, because I sit here potting stuff and show you visually almost absolutely nothing. But hopefully you get some good information out of it. Hopefully, hopefully, I will eventually one day have one of these for every single banana variety that I grow, which is over 100, over 150 now, whether they are named cultivars or seed grown or seeded varieties, ornamental varieties. I actually believe we're over 160 now for species and varieties and sports and mutations. We're getting up there with bananas, guys. I'd love to open a botanical gardens one day or something like that and just really showcase bananas. It'd be absolutely insane. Just something I wanted to do. It'd be pretty cool. All the mutations and colors and flavors and varieties. That would be insane, right? Fortunately, it takes money. I figure I would need quite a bit of land, more than I have, and I would have to have some nice greenhouses, because even though bananas do absolutely amazing everywhere, they do, aren't always pretty looking depending on the seasons, especially winter or after a hurricane. They can look a little rough and beat up, but bananas grow absolutely amazing in so many areas, whether it's in pots or in the ground. But anyway, yeah, blah, 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 me yakking. This one is going to be quick. This is the giant plantain. There she is. There's a couple corms I'm potting up, guys. So, before there were all the commercial hybrids coming out of breeding programs, which there's multiple breeding programs throughout the world, before there were those, before there were really any large named varieties, this plantain, if you really look into it, you can find references to this going back over 100 years, over 120 years actually. The farthest I've read back is articles I found on the internet talking about them in the 1890s, of them importing giant plantains from Puerto Rico or from Cuba or in the Caribbean here, and it's pretty crazy. It's the info you can find. This is probably one of the oldest mass-produced plantains you can find. It was the original commercial plantain. It was the original the fruit, massively imported plantain. And there even were attempts in the 1920s and whatnot of massive plantations in Central Florida. Craziness. And it's really crazy considering that we regularly frost here, get cold enough to burn bananas pretty bad, or sometimes every few years to completely freeze bananas to the ground. So that over 100 years ago, they were growing commercially bananas here in my area is absolutely insane. I mean, I do it, but for, actual massive sales, it's craziness. But then again, they did pineapples too. Pineapples, coconuts. When you really look at the history, and I'm in Polk County, Florida, guys, by the way. It's like smack dab Central Florida. The tropical fruits they used to have plantations here. Crazy. Pineapples, these giant plantains, coconuts were readily grown and planted here in my area. Winter Haven, which is about an hour and a half, depending, 2 hours from me. It's driving. It's crazy. There used to be massive somebody started coconut plantation, pineapple plantations, plantain plantations, craziness. And it's interesting that they stopped growing all of these fruits because it got too cold. Crazy, guys, crazy. Central Florida used to grow more pineapples than Hawaii, okay? Craziness. But they had to stop after 20, 30 years of going because the climate was getting too cold, guys. weren't getting hot. Just putting that out there. Just putting it out there, guys. We weren't getting hot. We were getting colder. Just some info you might like to know. But anyway, back to the giant plantain. This is the original shipping plantain. You know, plantains, if you don't know, they actually ship really well. They ship better than bananas. Remember our talk about bananas and plantains, guys. Hopefully you do. You saw that video. So plantains actually used to be the original bananas that were widely shipped throughout the U.S. because slaves, believe it or not, they used to be a huge staple they were bringing in and feeding them. I've even actually found info that during the Civil War that there were Confederate troops that, especially here in the South, were eating plantains. Craziness, guys. Really crazy. And of course, throughout the southern plantations during that era, a lot of slaves were actually eating plantains too. And guess what? They were growing them. And crazy, guys, they were growing this giant plantain. Absolutely craziness when you really dig into some of the info on what you can find for bananas and the history of these, even in the southern U.S. here, of how widely they were grown and how widely they were wanting to be grown and distributed. Really interesting. But you know, plantain, you harvest it completely green. You've got a week, 2, 3 weeks, sometimes even longer, if it's stored well, before that banana goes completely bad. So plantains were really good at shipping, which makes sense. That's why they had them, which is pretty crazy. But this plantain here, this video is going to go longer than I want, but hopefully you're getting some good info. It was the original plantain, the original mass-produced plantain. It's a very large fruit. They get over a foot long. They get nice and thick, dense plantain. You can pick them solid green, hard as a piece of wood. You know, club somebody with it, and they slowly ripen up, and you can use them until the peel is jet black, and they're sticky sweet, and you make desserts out of them or fry them or whatever you want to do. So you boil them rock hard, and then you enjoy them when they're sticky sweet black. You throw them on the fire and heat it up, and it's amazing as a dessert. So can't beat that. The only reason these plantains are less produced today is because of the plantain and banana breeding programs have come out with newer hybrids that are resistant to all the diseases. But I've never had trouble with these. They're fairly disease resistant. The fruits ripen up really quick. The plants are on the larger side, but they grow fast. They're sturdy plants, and they taste good, you know. I've said it before, I'm not a cooked banana kind of person, but for a plantain, this was the original gold standard. Even though there were better gourmet plantains out there that tasted better and the growers normally kept for themselves, this was your general purpose shipping and eating plantain for decades, hundreds of years even. And I'm not entirely sure originally how they came into the U.S. because they've been grown and they have a huge history of being grown here in Central and South Florida and in Louisiana, even going into Alabama, Southern Texas. There's information out there. I found I think an article from the 80s, 1980s, talking about farmers in northeastern, I guess it would be Mexico there, you know, in the Texas, what's now the Texas-Mexico border and whatnot, going down there, of them growing giant plantains, and farmers talk about them passing it on. It's crazy. Really some info. If you've got the time, guys, it's really interesting if you look up the history on this particular plantain variety. It's just called giant plantain, so it makes it kind of hard to search for it because it's the name of the plantain, but you know, it can also refer to so many other things. You know, search for giant plantain, you know, you get pictures of giant plantains and other things. If you, you know, scroll past the like 50-page mark on Google. But anyway, I'll leave it right there, guys. I've just been yakking away. I spend way too much time when I find varieties of bananas, and some of them are really interesting. You find information out on these bananas, and it's pretty crazy, pretty interesting. So I love bananas. I love all fruits. I mean, bananas. I don't know why. I have tons of banana varieties, but I mean, I also tons of mulberries, tons of passion fruits, and plums I like to collect. So it's not like I just collect bananas, but tons of sugar canes. But bananas are pretty crazy because they're a very popular fruit, and even if you don't think you can grow them, it's likely that somebody in your area has tried growing them before. Just so you know. So I love you guys. Grow food and grow some giant plantains. The original plantain that everybody was mafungoing, right? See you later. I gotta pot these up. I don't grow very many of these. I grow so many bananas. I get so much fruit normally every year. This year I lost 98% of my fruit though from hurricanes. It happens. But I've even got some now that are fruiting, some of the dwarf plants. But this is pretty much it. I just potted some corms in there, some suckers, and then that one. That's pretty much it for my stock of giant plantains. So I'm going through and trying to really, really propagate all of my varieties. There's very, very, very few varieties, only 3 or 4 really that I grow tons of, and I've said those before. But this is not one of them, and I really got to work harder to propagate them, and because some of these varieties are unfortunately becoming extremely rare, and it's a shame because the genetics and the history on some of them is pretty interesting, and alone just the genetics and the food value, we don't want to lose that, right? So love you guys. Thank you for watching. See you later. Thank you for just staring at this this one shot right here. If you made it this long, I appreciate it. You want to learn? I do have some knowledge upstairs, so try and share it the best I can. See how it goes. Grow food, guys.